What's happening, guys? Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with that juicy Destiny 2 stuff. So we've got some news and other things to round up. We have a new Bungie Vidoc, some pretty cool stuff in there, including some teasers to Destiny 3 and the future story in D2, as Bungie give us hints towards the future, so we'll touch on that. And we've got a few additional details about Season 7, including the starting dates, some additional changes and content roundups, and then some sandbox balancing. The nerf to Spectral Blades is coming shortly in the game, and we've got a load of other current news roundups, emergency fixes, upcoming events, and content to talk about in this video, guys. But firstly, if you want a fantastic place to find other gamers, LFG for Destiny, or to set up persistent clans, then check out my friends over at Gamerlink, who have an awesome app for Android and iOS. The details for that are linked below. Now though, let's get into the Destiny news stuff. So firstly, let's talk briefly about a new Vidoc that Bungie posted, and this is for Season of the Drifter. So really, it kind of looks at the core of Joker's wild story content and explains the basics of the relationship between the Nine and the Drifter. On this side of the video, we also got a look at some new cutscene segments and things like that. But even more exciting, they teased the coming war with the Darkness, and this does likely refer to Year 3 of Destiny 2, but even more likely, Destiny 3, because many of the events that Drifter speaks about in the future are likely to be pretty massive system-changing events in the Destiny universe. But in the Vidoc, Bungie talk about what the Drifter is doing. He wants to teach us how to drift, so that we can survive too. They said that the role Drifter is playing in running Gambit and Gambit Prime is essential to the coming war against the Darkness. So Bungie are officially referring to the Darkness again, which is pretty cool. But they talk about how Drifter wants to find a way to stay safe for whatever he thinks is coming. They do allude to the fact that he always seemed to think something is coming, but this time he might just be right. And so really, this links to a lot of stuff that's also in the game and in the lore right now. When we completed that Allegiance quest, the Drifter said, "I want the best for you, kid," and you won't find that in this system. Speaking of which, the collapse wasn't the last extinction level event to hit humanity, and old Drifter's seen another one coming. And if we look at what else has been shown in the game, and the teasers from the Drifter, but also what Mara Sov has warned us of in the Queen's Court, these pyramid ships have been presented to us as one of the key encroaching threats for quite some time. We originally saw concepts for them in Destiny 1, and we've seen them referenced in D2's cinematics, both in the early game, but also in that secret post-credit cutscene. And all of that was before Mara also warned us in the Queen's Court. Now, spoiler alert, but our most reliable leaks about what could happen in the future have referenced these pyramid ships, as well as the enemy race that commands them, supposedly referred to as the Veil. And according to Shadow of Anon the Nine, Anon had let slip that one of these immense pyramid ships would actually be an endgame location in Destiny 3, kind of the equivalent of Dreaming City. And that's also where that information about the possible enemy race the Veil comes from. And of course, we can take leaked stuff with a pinch of salt, but one to also bear in mind is that Anon did suggest that there wouldn't necessarily be a major expansion for D2 in Year 3. Now, this may or may not be true, but if it is true, then it definitely adds further weight to the likelihood that most of this big stuff is going to happen in D3. So definitely very curious, and as we mentioned a couple of days back, when it comes to Destiny 3, we'll almost certainly have PS5 and an Xbox equivalent by the time that the game drops, since Sony did tease the first details for PS5 with a likely release date of 2020. So I'd love to hear your speculation about the future of the game beyond our current roadmap. But inside of this season, as I mentioned the other day, it does appear that there is one more quest which awaits us, and interestingly, in the new Vidoc, Lars Bakken did refer to them paying off the Allegiance choice throughout the entirety of the season, so there could be more to that yet, and you can check out my previous video if you want further details about that.
And when the time comes, we'll finally be in the clear.
We may as well talk about this here though. As previewed in the Vidoc, this week's invitation has arrived, so Xur's actually in the European Dead Zone. We'll need to run the Will of the Thousand Strike, collect Hive and Cabal samples on Mars, which are pretty easy between the Strike and farming Cabal kills on the southern part of the Mars map. Then of course we get to experience this week's vision, so spoiler alert for just a moment, but this time we get to see the Drifter and Orin, the Awoken Guardian who eventually became the emissary to the Nine, so here's the short interaction this week.
I'm sorry. I really miss him.
Yeah, me too.
How did you say you knew each other again?
Oh, Namchi and me were buddies. Met in a little dive on Ceres. Used to play cards. He talked about you a lot. Said the Queen trusts you to talk to the Nine for her. That true?
Yeah, sort of. Doesn't seem important anymore.
Yeah. you ever need a shoulder to cry on, I'm here for you.
Now though, let's move on and talk about a couple of other updates. If you're wondering when Season 7 is due, well, we've known from the roadmap that that's going to be in June of this year. But Cosmo did confirm on Reddit that players will have 4 weeks after the Revelry until the end of this season, which would actually take us to the 4th of June. So 4th of June definitely appears to be the end date for Season 6, and that means that Season of Opulence, as well as the DLC content that comes alongside that, will drop on either the 4th or the 11th of June, and based on what happened this season, all of the content kind of kicked off at the same time. So my guess is that 4th of June is probably when Season of Opulence officially begins. So definitely bear that one in mind if you're curious about the dates. There are a few changes that we know of coming in Season 7, or shortly before that, and Bungie have recently outlined a nerf to Spectral Blades. So jumping straight into the numbers right here, in terms of damage reduction, the out of stealth damage reduction has been reduced from 60% to 52%, and in stealth reduced from 62 to 54. And previously, Spectral Blades did have the highest damage reduction of all roaming supers, but following this change, it will have the lowest damage reduction of all roaming supers when stealth is not active. On top of this, they have reduced the super duration, so out of stealth, without attacks, it's gone from 17.5 to 14.5 seconds, and with stealth active with no attacks, it's 26.6 seconds to 23.5 seconds. And the light melee cost has been increased by 50%, and of course that's kind of the main mobility element for Spectral Blade as well. But Bungie say this is basically a reduction of around about 3 seconds overall for the duration of the super, but on top of that, of course, just meleeing or swinging towards a target will cost you a lot more super energy. So we'll have to see how that plays out, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on it. But also, Bungie are looking at Gwiz and Vest and playing with some potential changes, and they say they actually want to get the Spectral Blade change into the game first, and then they'll see if the Gwiz and Vest change is really going to be necessary. But if it is, that's something that will arrive in Season 7. On top of this though, Bungie have spoken a few times about enhancement core adjustments, or more specifically, the introduction of gunsmith bounties in Season 7. And Bungie have been posting kind of updates on where they are with development for this, and currently there are going to be kind of multiple daily bounties that will give an enhancement core, as well as a couple of weekly bounties that will give an enhancement core, as well as some other materials. It is however possible that Bungie could actually improve what those bounty rewards will be before Season 7 starts, because they are asking for feedback as they go through this process. But then in case you missed it, or have forgotten, we also got leaks supposedly from Ann and the Nine about some of the content in Season 7, and that includes a return to Leviathan, the arrival of the Rose, as well as Hawkmoon and the Dark Drinker, all returning exotics from D1. We're also going to get that 6-player match-made activity, and as Bungie have pretty much already confirmed, Benedict is clearly still a servant of Callus, and by extension will also be the handler or dealer for the content in Season of Opulence. And again, as we've seen with many other kind of elements or pieces of content in the game, there's quite a lot of lore already tipping us in the direction of Season of Opulence, and one would include the passivity lore card. But a lot of the lore kind of indicates that the Vanguard are curious as to why Callus and Leviathan has been so inactive, and they also speculate the possibility of a secret Stargate aboard Leviathan. And who knows, that could link to some of the content or stuff that we will see in Penumbra or Season of Opulence Season 7. Man, there's too many different name definitions going on here. Either way, let us know your thoughts about it. Now, a final couple of updates for the game right now. You may have noticed that orbs in the Revelry aren't being generated in certain content, and Bungie said we've been tracking an issue where guitar errors were appearing frequently in raids, Gambit as well as Prime, since the Revelry event went live. And Bungie found that orb generation off of precision kills specific to Revelry were actually causing some of these errors. So effective immediately, they have disabled precision orb generation for these activities for the remainder of the event, and once again that's raids, Gambit as well as Prime, and competitive. They do point out as well that they are unable to disable the effects of tonic buffs at the moment, but otherwise Revelry orb generation has been disabled in those playlists. But Bungie do say triumphs and bounties associated with Revelry orb generation may be completed in quick play Crucible playlists, strikes, as well as patrols, Black Armory Forges, and the Verdant Forest. Bungie are also investigating issues where things like Sealed Hamkara Grasps and the Nightmare Fuel perk are not actually activating properly when a hunter uses Knife Trick or a Tractor Cannon. On top of this, they're investigating an issue where players die due to misadventures when wearing Antaeus wards. On top of this, it appears that some projectiles may not be deflecting properly. And Bungie are investigating a problem where Wizened Rebuke can't be obtained from collections. On the subject of Wizened Rebuke though, the Iron Banner returns to Destiny 2 on April 23rd at 10 AM PDT, so with the weekly reset. We'll get the Iron Banner next week, and we're also going to get double Valor and then presumably triple Valor over the weekend next week as well. Bungie do say though that the Iron Burden was an experiment for Season 6, and after reviewing community feedback, they don't plan to bring it back for Season 7. We'll have the rest of this Iron Banner to earn the Wizened Rebuke, and Bungie say if you can get 2,500 Iron Burden kills in the next 2 Iron Banners, then completing the Now You're Just Showing Off triumph will reward you with the heaviest death emblem that you can see on screen. So if you fancy that, then good luck with the grind, but do bear in mind that that Iron Burden won't be a thing after the start of Season 7. But in terms of weapons for the upcoming event, we've got the rocket launcher as well as the scout rifle available this week. So let us know if you're going to jump in there, but do bear in mind all of the Revelry stuff, the tonics, as well as orb generation will actually be live inside of Iron Banner, just like in Quick Play. So that is going to be a rather interesting experience, isn't it? For now though guys, that summarizes the video for today, so I'll be keeping you posted on content and news as we approach Season 7, and any remaining stuff that we get for this season of course. But as always, I'd love you to share your thoughts down below. If you have enjoyed this video, a like is very much appreciated, and if you are new to the channel, you want to keep up to date with everything related to the game, be sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. But otherwise, thank you as always for tuning in, and I will catch you guys very soon.